History is a story of moments. It is a chain of events where a single link can change everything that follows. The Second Punic War, that epic struggle between Rome and Carthage, is full of these moments. We remember Hannibal crossing the Alps with his elephants, a feat of military genius. We recall the crushing Carthaginian victory at Cannae, where tens of thousands of Roman soldiers fell in a single day. Yet the war's final, decisive moment came not from an elephant charge or a brilliant envelopment, but from a betrayal. It happened on the dusty plains of North Africa, where the fate of the ancient world was decided by the loyalty of a single group of horsemen, the Numidians. Their choice to abandon Hannibal and fight for Rome turned the tide forever. Imagine a different world. Imagine a world where that betrayal never happened. What if the finest light cavalry in the ancient world had remained true to their Carthaginian allies? The Battle of Zama, the showdown that ended the war, would have been fought on entirely different terms. Hannibal, the master tactician, would have had his most crucial weapon back in his arsenal. The Roman general, Scipio Africanus, would have faced the same terrifying cavalry screen that had shattered Roman armies across Italy for over a decade. This single change, a simple matter of a prince's allegiance, could have completely rewritten the outcome of the battle, the war, and ultimately the entire course of Western civilization. This is not just a flight of fancy, it is a serious question of cause and effect. The Numidian cavalry were not just another unit in Hannibal's army. They were his eyes, his ears, and the razor-sharp edge of his sword. Throughout his legendary Italian campaign from the river Trebbia to the fields of Cannae, it was the Numidians who scouted the enemy, harassed their supply lines, and delivered the killing blow by sweeping around the Roman flanks. They were the masters of hit-and-run tactics, a whirlwind of javelins and hooves that the rigid Roman legions simply could not counter. To lose them was to lose the very tool that had made Hannibal's strategy of annihilation possible. So, let us journey back to that pivotal year, 202 BC. The stage is set for the final act of a generation-spanning conflict. Hannibal has been recalled from Italy to defend his homeland. Scipio has landed in Africa, determined to bring the war to Carthage's doorstep. In our history, this is where the Numidian prince Massinissa defects, taking his superb horsemen with him and handing Scipio the key to victory. But in our alternate timeline, the winds of fortune blow in a different direction. Loyalty holds firm. The Numidians ride for Carthage, and Hannibal, the bogeyman of Rome, prepares for one last battle with his full, terrifying strength intact. The consequences of this one change will ripple outwards, reshaping a world we thought we knew. To understand the magnitude of this alternate path, we must first appreciate the reality of what happened. The Numidians were not a single unified people. They were a collection of tribes living in the lands west of Carthage, in modern-day Algeria. For generations, they had been allies, subjects, and sometimes rivals of the great Punic city. Their politics were complex and deeply personal, driven by the ambitions of powerful chieftains. Two of the most influential were Syphax, king of the Massaicili tribe, and Massinissa, prince of the Massiliae. Both were exceptional leaders and commanded thousands of the world's most feared cavalrymen. Their loyalty was the ultimate prize in the North African theatre of war. Initially, both kings were aligned with Carthage. Syphax was a long-standing ally, while the young and ambitious Massinissa had fought with distinction for Carthage in Spain. However, Roman diplomacy, led by the shrewd Scipio, was relentless. Scipio saw that the key to defeating Hannibal was to turn his greatest strength against him. He courted the Numidian princes, promising them power, recognition, and the ultimate prize, a unified Numidian kingdom under their rule. This was an offer Carthage, which preferred to keep the tribes divided and weak, could never match. The Romans promised to make a king, while Carthage only offered the status of a subordinate ally. The political situation in Numidia was a powder keg. Massinissa felt his position was threatened by Carthaginian politics and the rival power of Syphax. When his father died, Carthage backed another claimant to the throne, pushing Massinissa into a precarious position. Scipio exploited this masterfully. He had met Massinissa in Spain and had cultivated a personal relationship with the prince, treating him as an equal and a future king. When Scipio eventually defeated and captured Syphax, Massinissa saw his chance. He switched his allegiance to Rome, believing the Romans offered him a better future. It was a pragmatic political decision, not a simple act of treachery. He chose the side he believed would win and would best serve his own ambitions. This defection was a catastrophe for Hannibal. When he arrived in Africa, he found the military landscape transformed. Not only had he lost his own veteran Numidian riders who had served him in Italy, but he now had to face them on the other side of the battlefield. At the Battle of Zama, Scipio had a significant cavalry advantage for the first time in the entire war. He had around 6,000 horsemen, including Massinissa's elite Numidians, against Hannibal's meager 4,000, many of whom were inexperienced local levies. The tool Hannibal had used to destroy army after army was now turned against him. It was a strategic nightmare that sealed Carthage's fate before the first spear was even thrown. Now, let us rewind the clock and change one crucial detail. In this alternate history, Carthaginian diplomacy proves to be more astute. Perhaps the ruling council in Carthage, seeing the Roman threat on their doorstep, finally understands the importance of securing Numidian loyalty at any cost. Instead of alienating Massinissa, they embrace him. They promise him what he desires most, their full support in his quest to unite the Numidian tribes under his rule, deposing his rival Syphax. They offer him the hand of the famed Carthaginian noblewoman Sophonisba, a marriage that in reality was a point of major contention. In this timeline, Carthage outbids Rome for Massinissa's ambition. This deal places Massinissa in a powerful but committed position. He now sees his future intertwined with a Carthaginian victory. If Carthage wins, he becomes the undisputed king of a unified Numidia, a powerful monarch in his own right, and a key ally of the Mediterranean's dominant power. If Carthage loses, he loses everything to the Romans and their own chosen puppet ruler. His personal ambition, his kingdom, and his future are now entirely dependent on Hannibal succeeding. There is no room for doubt or wavering. His loyalty is cemented not by sentiment, but by the cold, hard logic of political survival and immense personal gain. With both Massinissa and Syphax, or a defeated Syphax's forces, now under Massinissa's command, firmly in the Carthaginian camp, the strategic situation in North Africa is completely reversed. Scipio, landing his legions, finds himself in hostile territory, deprived of the local support he was counting on. Instead of finding a ready-made cavalry force waiting for him, he faces a scorched earth campaign led by thousands of Numidian horsemen. His foraging parties are ambushed, his scouts are cut down, and his army is effectively blinded. He is pinned to the coast, unable to march inland and force a decisive battle on his own terms. This puts immense pressure on Scipio. His supply lines back to Sicily are long and vulnerable to the still potent Carthaginian navy. His men are isolated in a foreign land, their morale slowly eroding as they are harassed by an enemy they cannot catch. He had planned to use the Numidians to force Hannibal's hand. Instead, the Numidians are being used to strangle his invasion force. The hunter has become the hunted. Scipio, the brilliant aggressor, is forced onto the defensive. He must now gamble everything on a single pitched battle, but it will be a battle fought on Hannibal's terms, not his. When Hannibal lands in Africa, in this new timeline, he is not met with the grim news of betrayal and a weakened army. Instead, he is greeted by Massinissa, at the head of 6,000 to 8,000 elite Numidian horsemen, all fiercely loyal and battle-ready. This is the cavalry that had dominated Italy, reinforced by the full strength of the Numidian kingdoms. For Hannibal, this is a moment of profound strategic relief. The weapon that had defined his greatest victories is once again in his hands. The despair he must have felt in our history is replaced with a surge of cold, calculated confidence. The plan to defeat Scipio begins to form in his mind, built around his greatest asset. His tactical approach to the coming battle shifts dramatically. In the real Battle of Zama, Hannibal's plan was defensive and relied on a desperate gamble. He used his 80 war elephants as a shock weapon to break the Roman lines, hoping to cause enough chaos for his infantry to win the day. His own cavalry was too weak to play an offensive role. But now, with a massive cavalry superiority, he can return to his classic strategy, the hammer and anvil. He no longer needs the elephants as a primary offensive weapon. Instead, they can be used to create disorder and pin the Roman infantry in place. The real killing blow will come from the wings. Hannibal can now plan for a battle of annihilation just as he had at Cannae. He will use his infantry, including his hardened veterans from the Italian campaign, to absorb the Roman charge and hold the center. This solid anvil of infantry will fix the Roman legions in a grinding head-on fight. While the Romans are fully engaged, struggling against the veterans and confused by the elephants, the hammer will fall. His vastly superior Numidian cavalry, led by the eager Massinissa, will not just fight the Roman cavalry, it will utterly overwhelm it. The small Roman and allied Italian cavalry contingent would stand no chance against such a massive force of elite horsemen. Confidence would radiate from Hannibal to his entire army. The Carthaginian citizens and the raw levies in his force would see the legendary Numidians arrayed for battle and feel a surge of hope. The veterans from Italy would recognize the familiar pattern of impending victory. For them, the presence of the Numidian cavalry meant that the old, unbeatable formula was back in play. Hannibal would not be fighting a battle of survival. He would be fighting a battle of extermination. He could dictate the time and place of the engagement, drawing Scipio into a trap from which there would be no escape. The road to Zama is no longer a desperate march to defend a city, but a confident advance to destroy an invading army. The sun rises over the plains of Zama on the day of the battle. The field is set, but the balance of power is radically different. Scipio arranges his legions in their deep formations, leaving lanes for Hannibal's elephants to pass through, a brilliant tactic he used in our history. Hannibal, however, anticipates this. He is not relying on his elephants for victory. They are a diversion. His true focus is on the wings, where his ocean of Numidian cavalry, commanded by Massinissa, faces Scipio's hopelessly outnumbered horsemen. The air is thick with dust and tension. The fate of the Mediterranean hangs in the balance. The battle begins. Hannibal orders his elephants forward. As they charge, the Roman legionaries blow their horns and bang their shields, creating a terrifying din. Some elephants panic and swerve, crashing into Hannibal's own lines, just as they did in reality. Others charge down the lanes Scipio has created. But this chaos is exactly what Hannibal wants. The Roman center is momentarily disordered, its attention fixed on the rampaging beasts. At that precise moment, Hannibal gives the signal. On both flanks, the Numidian cavalry surges forward, not as a tentative screen, but as an overwhelming wave of destruction aimed at the Roman cavalry. The clash on the wings is brutal but brief. Scipio's cavalry, a mix of Romans and his few allied horsemen, is simply swamped by the sheer numbers and superior skill of Massinissa's riders. There is no heroic, drawn-out fight. The Roman cavalry breaks and flees, with the Numidians in merciless pursuit. This is where history truly diverges. In the real battle, the Roman and Numidian cavalry chased the Carthaginian horsemen from the field, returning only at the very end to strike Hannibal's rear. But here Hannibal has given Massinissa strict orders. The pursuit is short and sharp. The primary goal is to destroy the enemy cavalry and immediately return to the main battle. With the Roman cavalry shattered, Hannibal's grand design comes to fruition. While his infantry, anchored by his elite veterans, holds the Roman legions in a bloody stalemate in the center, the victorious Numidian cavalry wheels around and slams into the rear of Scipio's engaged infantry. The anvil has held, the hammer has fallen. The Roman legions, models of discipline and courage, are now trapped. They are being attacked from the front by Hannibal's best troops and from the back by thousands of fresh, deadly horsemen. The cry of cavalry in the rear spreads panic. The carefully ordered Roman maniples dissolve into chaos. It is Cannae all over again, a perfect double envelopment. Scipio's army is no longer fighting for victory, it is fighting for survival, and it is a battle it cannot win. The news from Zama trickles back to Rome, not as a triumphant victory dispatch, but as scattered reports of an unimaginable disaster. Survivors who manage to escape the slaughter and find passage on a ship bring tales of an army not just defeated, but annihilated. Scipio, the hero who was meant to end the war, is reported dead or captured. The legions sent to Africa are gone. The entire invasion force has been wiped from existence. For the Roman Senate and people, who had endured 15 years of brutal warfare and were on the brink of what they thought was final victory, the psychological shock is cataclysmic. It's worse than Cannae, because this time there is no army left. Panic grips the city of Rome. The dread of Hannibal, which had subsided after he was recalled from Italy, returns with a vengeance. Now, there is nothing standing between the legendary general and the city itself. The walls of Rome, which hadn't seen a foreign enemy at their gates for centuries, suddenly seem terrifyingly vulnerable. The political fallout is immediate and vicious. The factions that had supported Scipio and his aggressive strategy are disgraced. Blame is thrown around the Senate House with accusations of incompetence and recklessness. The Fabian faction, which had long argued for a cautious defensive war, rises to prominence, its grim warnings now vindicated in the most terrible way. The military consequences are just as dire. Rome is left scrambling to defend itself. The legions stationed in Gaul and Greece would have to be recalled immediately. New armies would need to be levied, but from where? The Republic's manpower has been bled white by years of war. They would be forced to recruit boys and old men, to free slaves to serve as soldiers, and to empty the treasury to equip them. The confidence and arrogance that had defined Rome's rise are shattered, replaced by a primal fear. The question on everyone's lips is not, how do we win, but how do we survive? The defeat at Zama would be seen as a sign that the gods themselves had abandoned Rome and favored Carthage. Religious hysteria might sweep the city, with calls for extraordinary sacrifices to appease the divine powers. The political unity that had allowed Rome to endure previous disasters would fracture under the immense strain of this ultimate failure. Scipio Africanus, the man who was to be Rome's greatest hero, is instead remembered as the general who gambled everything and lost it all. His name becomes a byword for hubris, a cautionary tale for generations to come. The indomitable Roman spirit, for the first time, is broken. In the aftermath of his stunning victory at Zama, Hannibal does not make the same mistake twice. After Cannae, he famously lacked the siege equipment and logistical support to march on Rome. Now the situation is different. He has an entire army, fresh from a massive victory and brimming with confidence. He has a secure home base in Carthage and the full support of a grateful city. Most importantly, he has command of the sea. As the remnants of Scipio's fleet would be captured or destroyed, Hannibal can now transport his veteran army, his siege engineers, and his Numidian cavalry back to Italy for the final chapter of the war. His next move is not a direct, headlong assault on the city of Rome itself. Hannibal is too patient and strategic for that. Instead, he would land his army in southern Italy, the region where he had operated for over a decade, and where he still had allies among the local peoples. His return would be a signal for a general uprising against Roman rule. The Samnites, the Bruttians, and the Greek cities of Magna Graecia, all recently and brutally subjugated by Rome, would see this as their last, best chance for freedom. Hannibal's army would swell with new recruits as he systematically dismantles what is left of Roman authority in the south. While his land campaign grinds down Roman power in Italy, the revitalized Carthaginian navy would go on the offensive. Fleets would sail to reclaim the vital islands of Sicily and Sardinia. These islands were the breadbasket of Rome and the source of much of its wealth. Losing them would not only be a strategic blow, but would also risk starvation in the capital. With Rome's legions pinned down in Italy trying to contain Hannibal, the islands would likely fall quickly. Carthage would regain its maritime empire, and Roman sea power so painstakingly built during the war would be erased from the Mediterranean. The final objective would, of course, be Rome. But Hannibal would approach it methodically. He would isolate the city, cutting off its food supplies from both land and sea. He would defeat any new Roman armies sent against him in the field, using his superior cavalry and tactical genius to inflict defeat after defeat. The war would become a slow, suffocating siege of the entire Italian peninsula, with Rome at its heart. Hannibal, fueled by a lifetime of enmity and the desire to avenge his family and his people, would be relentless. The Barcid vengeance would be slow, deliberate, and total. Rome would be brought to its knees, not by a single assault, but by starvation and despair. A Carthaginian victory in the Second Punic War would completely reshape the balance of power in the Mediterranean. The world would not see the rise of a single dominant superpower in Rome. Instead, it would be a bipolar world dominated by two great rivals, Carthage and Rome. Carthage, having won the war, would impose a harsh, but not necessarily destructive peace treaty on its fallen enemy. Hannibal, a statesman as well as a general, would understand that a completely destroyed Rome could create a power vacuum, inviting other threats. The goal would be to permanently cripple Rome, not erase it. The peace terms would be brutal. Rome would be forced to surrender all its overseas territories, Sicily, Sardinia, and its holdings in Spain. It would have its navy dismantled and would be forbidden from raising a large army. A massive war indemnity paid in silver over many decades would drain the Roman economy and fund Carthaginian expansion. Rome would be reduced to a regional Italian power, its wings clipped, forever looking over its shoulder at its powerful Punic rival across the sea. Carthage would reclaim its empire in Spain, rich with silver mines, and would re-establish its commercial dominance over the western and central Mediterranean. In the long term, this new balance of power would change everything. The Hellenistic kingdoms of the East, the Seleucids, Ptolemaic Egypt, and Macedon would not face a single, ever-expanding Roman behemoth. Instead, they would find themselves in a more complex diplomatic world, able to play Carthage and Rome against each other. Carthage, a mercantile power, would be more interested in trade networks and tribute than in direct conquest and colonization, at least initially. Its influence would spread through commerce and naval power, creating a different kind of empire from the one Rome would have built. This Carthaginian hegemony would face its own challenges. The Numidian kingdom, united under the powerful Massinissa, would be a formidable ally, but also a potential rival on Carthage's border. The Punic state would have to manage this relationship carefully. Furthermore, a weakened but resilient Rome would always be plotting its revenge. The Punic Wars might not have ended. This might only have been the end of the second act. A third, or even fourth, war could loom in the future, but this time it would be a resurgent Rome trying to reclaim its lost glory from a confident and powerful Carthaginian empire. The Mediterranean would be a stage for a prolonged Cold War between two titans. The long-term cultural and political consequences of a Carthaginian victory are staggering to contemplate. The Roman Republic as we know it would likely never have become the Roman Empire. The immense wealth and power gained from conquering the Mediterranean world, which fueled the social and political crises that led to the rise of figures like Julius Caesar and Augustus, would have flowed to Carthage instead. Rome might have remained a republic, a land-based Italian state, its history a fascinating but ultimately regional story. The very foundations of Western civilization, Roman law, governance, language, and engineering, would have been profoundly altered. What would a Carthaginian-influenced world look like? We know far less about Carthaginian culture, as the Romans systematically destroyed their city and their records. However, we know they were a Semitic people, descended from the Phoenicians. Their language was related to Hebrew and Arabic. Their religion, infamous for Roman propaganda about child sacrifice, was a complex, polytheistic system. Their government was an oligarchy, ruled by a council of wealthy merchant families. A world shaped by Carthage might have seen a different legal tradition, one based on maritime and commercial law rather than Roman civil law. The dominant languages of Europe might have evolved from Punic and Greek, not Latin. The spread of Christianity might have followed a completely different path. The Roman Empire provided the infrastructure, the roads, the political unity, the common languages of Latin and Greek that allowed the new religion to spread so quickly. In a world dominated by a Punic-speaking polytheistic Carthage, Christianity might have remained a smaller, more localized sect in the Middle East, or it may have spread in a totally different way, perhaps taking on more Punic or Hellenistic characteristics. The entire spiritual and philosophical landscape of the Western world would be unrecognizable. Finally, Hannibal's legacy would be transformed. In our world, he is the brilliant loser, the ultimate tragic hero who won every battle but lost the war. In this alternate history, he is the single most important figure of the ancient world. He is the man who defeated Rome, saved his country, and forged an empire. He would be remembered not only as a military genius on par with Alexander the Great, but as the statesman who laid the foundations for a Carthaginian golden age. The story of the ancient world would not be the story of Rome's rise, but the story of Hannibal's triumph, and that single, pivotal moment, a Numidian prince's decision to remain loyal, would be the hinge upon which all of history turned. If you enjoyed exploring this alternate history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with fellow history fans. What do you think would have happened if Carthage had triumphed? Let us know your thoughts and your own favorite alternate history scenarios in the comments below.